My name is Alex Papa, and I am a member of the Harrington Schools Film Collaborative. I am a senior, majoring in Spanish and secondary education. Although film isn't one of my majors, when I found out about Roy Bergstrom's study abroad trip to Belize, I hopped right on that because I wanted to find out more about documentary filmmaking. And through this trip I got a lot of practice interviewing people, going to different locations, how to use certain camera equipment, and setting up lighting, indoor, outdoor. And I feel like I learned a lot of life skills through this. And also I get to visit a lot of locations that I never thought I'd go. Through this trip I got to do a lot of things that I never thought I'd do. We climbed to the top of ancient Mayan temples, we went canoeing, we went to a zoo, we scuba dived in tropical locations, tropical islands. We get to stay in huts. The reason why I submitted this photo is because I feel like this kind of summarized one of the locations we were at. We went to Southwater Key and we stayed on an island that was completely self-sufficient, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And this is actually where we learned how to snorkel. And between the palm trees and the reflections on the water and the boats and everything about this picture, I just absolutely loved, and this is really what it was like. This picture was at Shunan Tanich. We climbed to the very top of the tallest temple that was there. We had found out that these temples were previously overgrown and they were discovered in the 1800s and excavated, and they did a very good job of doing so because we were able to view the temples as they were 2,000 years ago. And we went to the very top with our cameras, we did interviews, we got a lot of B-roll footage. We did interview, I think his name was Mario, one of our talents up there. And although it was kind of dangerous and it was scary, I'm totally glad that I did it. And this photo kind of explains how high up we were and how far we had to climb with all this equipment. It was rather difficult because a lot of the stairs are kind of falling apart. There wasn't like any modern like railings and safety things like that. I mean, you could literally walk right off the edge and fall like 300 feet. And I was nervous about breaking equipment or something like that, but it totally worked out. The reason why we went here was because the theme of our documentary was sustainability, and these temples have survived thousands of years, and even though they were basic stone, they're still here. This shot was taken right near the resort that we stayed at, Kahau Pek, and we went on a long canoe trip all the way down the river. We almost fell over a few times, but it was a lot of fun. And this was at the very end, and when we were finally able to get out, put our canoes away, get back on the bus, and this is just our canoes lined up after a safe, successful journey. Nobody fell in. Around us we saw a mix of third world and first world things. We saw a lot of people have cars, but then they're living in shacks, and there's modern bridges, but on the ends of those bridges there's just rickety old shops and not really anything like we have here. But it was absolutely gorgeous. The weather was beautiful. Everyone was in good humor. It really was a beautiful trip. If there was a term second world, I would kind of use that to describe this place. They do have their own currency. They do have their own market system. Some of it is like marketplaces with trading and stuff like that, but then a lot of it is just regular grocery stores with registers. People do have cars there. A lot of them are really old. There isn't a lot of running water. Not everyone has running water. Some people have it, some people don't. When driving down the streets, you see a lot of houses on stilts. Some of them are completely falling apart. Some of them are kind of beautiful. But it really doesn't, it does matter there, but it really doesn't matter too much since the weather is always nice. They don't have to worry about heating and staying warm and insulation and that kind of thing. So they kind of can sustain themselves with that kind of housing and the funds that they do have. But if it were a place like this, they would be struggling. Some of the things that I noticed that Belize is doing, they're collecting rainwater to use for water usage. They're using compost toilets to avoid water usage. There are times throughout the day when they don't have water, or just a trickle of water out of the faucet, or they might go like half a day without electricity, even in the resorts. And one of the things that I noted is all the resorts that we stayed at were completely eco-friendly. And this really shows me that Belize is on the forefront of eco-friendly environments. Here, we traveled a few miles down a very bumpy, rocky road to get to this cave. And one of the interesting things about this cave is that there was a beach in it. So it was pretty much like a beach inside. There was sand, there was water, there was stalagmites, stalactites, and it was sort of a dangerous area because there was a lot of places where you could like literally fall through like 50 feet, you know, just holes in the ground. So you really had to watch out, and it was very, very dark in there as well. But it was also absolutely beautiful, the things that we saw. And it was a sort of environment that I've never been in before, to have like waves and stuff inside. And this picture here just kind of shows how deep we were inside the cave, and that's actually the entrance that we all came through. And below us there's water running, and there were ways to get to the other side, which, you know, had to do with jumping over rivers and water and stuff like that. But it really was an amazing experience, and it was totally worth the bumpy ride down there. The opening was huge. It was probably like 100 yards tall. The people here are kind of close to me, so it kind of looks like the entrance isn't really that big, but it is absolutely huge. This was a canoe trip that we took over. This is the dock that we got on, and here we met people who told us about the wildlife in Belize and the wildlife in the oceans, and they talked about the different fish that are coming over, the types of fish that are becoming extinct. They've been here for a good number of years. They have a little shack on the island where they use to do experiments, and here we got to interview a few of them and explore what they were working on, explore their workspaces, and just get to know why people are coming to Belize and why people are studying it. I have also traveled to Spain. I studied abroad in Spain for a month in July 2011, and that really showed me that even though it is Europe, and even though we are descendants of the European country, Spain is really, really a different place. They have a very, very unique culture, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a lot of socializing, a lot of family-oriented activities. They go to bed late, they sleep late, they have large meals, everything. They value a lot of things that we don't value here, and I've learned that even though that is our heritage, even though that's where we're from, a lot of us are from Europe, it is really unique culture. I think it is very, very important for a student in the Harrington School to study abroad, because as much classroom instruction as you get, actually going out into the field and going out into these locations and seeing how rough it is, seeing how it is carrying camera equipment around, seeing how it is finding people to interview and, you know, hooking up a lavalier microphone and all that type of thing. The hands-on experience is something that you'll never be able to get through a classroom and that nobody can ever explain to you. And you're going to work in a lot of situations that you haven't really been taught to work in, such as filming on top of a temple or even filming underwater. And by going out to these locations and getting practice doing it, it really does help you understand what it is to be a filmmaker and what it is to do documentary photography. And it's not as easy as they make it look on TV, or when you actually see the finished thing, it doesn't look like, oh, that was really easy to make. I mean, it really isn't easy to make at all. Even just keeping track of tapes and sound SD cards and all that kind of thing is very, very difficult. Make sure you have batteries. That type of thing you'll never get in the classroom. There's always electricity outlets around in the classroom. There's always ways to charge things in the classroom. When you're out in the field, there's nothing like that. So you really, really have to learn how to be prepared as well.